Hello everyone, is HD FPV worth it? This is a question that comes up quite frequently on the channel and is one that has been ringing in my head for a while. And in trying to discuss it with the people in the comments section, a few things seem to come up time and time again. The first thing I think we have to do is kind of identify our own biases, or biases. And those are the things that we prefer. You can call them biases or preferences or what like that. Some people will say, if you're not flying this particular video transmission system, you're doing it wrong. Or some people will say just the opposite. If you're not flying analog, you're doing it wrong. There's all sorts of opinions to this. But I think when it comes down to us as individuals making decisions, we have to kind of self-identify our own biases. And the first thing that comes up for me, maybe because I'm a guy in his 50s who's a cheapskate, is cost. All the HD systems cost more than analog. So if cost is your top priority, you want to keep the cost down, of course, so that, if you have a wreck, if you have a repair it needs to make, you can afford to do that. Or just the cost of getting started in any of these systems. Goggles cost a lot different. If you're an HD, goggles cost a lot more, as do the cameras and the video transmission systems. And if any of those things go wrong, we've got to give more money over to the hobby in order to get ourselves back in the air. So cost is one item that we have to evaluate. I think the other things that we need to evaluate, I would start with my own biases, which is performance and the fact that I'm a micro guy. I like to fly whoops, if you didn't know that, and quads that are 3-inch props and less, for the most part. I dabble in 3.5. There's been like 2 or 3 quads in the last couple years that have been bigger than that. 2S, 2-inch has been one of my recent favorites. I think that works well in light HD platforms as well as analog. Another bias of mine is I prefer performance over image quality. That could be because of my vision. It just could be because when I started in the hobby, we had really bad cameras and really bad video transmission systems, and we had to fly through breakup at very short distances. It could be, just my preference for performance over image quality. Because when we increase the image quality, we also increase the weight of our quads, and being a micro guy, our performance goes down. So those are things that I always pose back to people. What are your preferences? What are your biases? What are you looking for out of your FPV experience? And that will hopefully steer you in one direction or another, whether it's budget, performance, image quality over performance. Those are the main things for me that I tend to weigh when someone poses that questions and that you have to kind of answer for yourself. Of course, there are different ways you can get involved in FPV. We've seen, goggles. Happen to have the V2 goggles sitting here from DJI. Those are what, $500? Let's just call all the HD goggles $500, just because prices go up and prices sometimes come down a little bit. And then on the analog side, you can get really inexpensive goggles like the EV800Ds, or you can get a screen and mount it to a tripod if that's the sort of flying that you want to do in FPV. And you can get the cost way down. Just the other day, someone in the Discord sent me a link to a tripod mounting screen that was, I think, $37 or $27. I was pretty surprised with that. Of course, we're giving up a bit on the reception side, possibly, because some of our newer modules, like the Rapid Fire, the Fusions, the Wildfires, they do 2 receivers, 2 antennas, and they blend those signals together to give the best analog image. So those are all things that you have to consider when it comes to determining whether HD FPV or not HD FPV is worth it for you. To go further in my own biases, I prefer analog. I still find myself flying analog. Even though I have access to all the different platforms, I find that the quads that I tend to keep around and the quads that I take out to fly when I'm not flying for review, I'm just going to go up and fly a couple of packs, just have a little fun. Maybe the weather was good and I just wanted to step out and enjoy it. I didn't want to think about anything for review purposes. It's analog for me. That doesn't mean it would be analog for you, though. So I would say overall, if you want to know, I fly probably 60% analog, and I split up the others relatively evenly amongst that 40%. I guess if we wanted to go even deeper into this and the performance and the image quality, you can decase or go naked on some of these HD video systems, such as the DJI-03, as well as the what we used to call the Caddx Vista, which is now produced under the Runcam Link name. We can take some of the heat sinks and some of the external components off of those and bring the weight down, and then in micros, we get some of our performance and flight time back. I think there's another thing you have to weigh there is the risk. Is the risk worth it to you? Again, these companies didn't make these things to be flown that way, but we found we can get away with it, if that's a good way of putting it. But what is the risk? We saw a lot of people using the Lynx, the Vistas, and taking out the heat sinks, and making the weight come down for a good long time. And I'm unaware of people having really hard times keeping those healthy and alive in our typical crashes within FPV. And I think we're getting close to saying the same thing for the DJI-03. And we even see companies starting to adopt in the micro arena, going naked or light with those. Flywoo is selling the DJI-03 without all the external components. They're making it naked for you, which is it saves you some time, spends you some extra money. So that's more for if your time is more valuable than the money, the cost difference there. But so you can take those items and bring the performance, or decrease the weight and bring the performance back to our micros. So, and with that, there's risk, and you have to evaluate that risk. I guess the long story short is I really can't tell you what's best for you. And I tend to kind of position myself this way because I don't like making the decision for you or really even trying to steer someone in one particular way. So many of you, when you've asked this and other sorts of questions like that, I'll come back with questions because what I'm trying to do is kind of give you a breakdown, a short breakdown that I can type into the comment section that will help you make the decision. I'm not one to kind of steer somebody that way. I'm not Nike. I'm not Adidas. I tend to be fairly agnostic when it comes to brands and types and things like that. To give you an example, when we buy TVs around the house, I tend to just go price shopping. I'm not looking for a 4K TV with certain sorts of features. I know that if I can get the TV at a price that I'm willing to pay for, because again, cheapskate, that if it doesn't have all the features that I absolutely need, then I need to go looking for someone different TV. But if it has most of those features, can I add those features at less of a cost than it would cost me to upgrade the TV into a line that would have all those features? So that's kind of my evaluation. I have an appreciation for all these different video technologies. I work in technology. I have an appreciation for technology. I think in this stage of my life, I don't get too enamored with any one technology. They all provide, for me, a function. And if they don't provide a function in my life, one way or another, I don't use them. But I wanted to get this out in the open. Hopefully this isn't a long video, and I think most of our veterans might be interested to hear my thoughts, but I don't know if that's really the case. This is going to be more for people that maybe just got started and are looking at their next quad, their next video system. Maybe they started in analog, or they want some sort of confirmation about the choices they've made. Really won't get that in this particular video though, because like I say, I still fly analog most of the time, 60%, maybe even a little bit more than that. And if I look at the quads that I keep around, a good many of them, they're analog too. I just find that I enjoy FPV flight with analog video transmission in my space, in the size of quad that I like. If you do have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, I hope this helped a little bit. Please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.